Okay, welcome everybody to our afternoon session of our Board of Supervisors meeting. Before we start item number 17, I would like to ask council to report out from closed session.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of Supervisors met in closed session today to discuss agenda items number 15 and 16 on today's agenda. The board met and conferred in closed session with its labor negotiators. Those designated representatives are Allison Hauk, Ray Espinoza, Joe Paul Gonzalez, Melinda Casillas, Georgia Cochran, and Steve Coffey. The employee organizations involved were institutions, associations, law enforcement, management employees group, SEIU Local 521, the general unit employees, SEIU Local 2015, IHSS, Deputy Sheriff's Association, confidential management department heads, and unrepresented employees. The authority to meet can be found in California Government Code Section 54957.6. At this time, the board took no reportable action. Finally, agenda item number 16, the board met and conferred regarding a public employee performance evaluation. The employee being evaluated is the county administrative officer. Authority to meet in closed session is found in California Government Code Section 54957. At this time, the board took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you, council. And Byron, I would like for you to introduce the item before I open up the public hearing.
Thank you. This item, we have a short presentation as well.
Okay.
But this, excuse me. This item is known as the Del Webb at San Juan Oaks project. I'd like to first introduce some of the people that we have here at our counter, the staff to the county and staff to the project. Byron Turner with the Resource Management Agency, of course, and Shirley Murphy, who you know, but also we have Nadia Costa, who is our special counsel on this project. Josh Janowitz from Rincon Consultants. Megan Jones from Rincon. Francesca Church from Fair and Pierce, she's the traffic consultant, and Greg Young from Tully and Young, which is our water consultant. So questions regarding traffic, water, anything legal, as well as our applicant, as well as our planning team is covered here today. For purposes of this project, these are county staff members. They were under the direction of county staff through the reimbursement agreement that was approved by the Board of Supervisors.
Welcome. Thank you for being here.
So our suggested format today is I'm going to give a brief project background. I'd like to turn it over to Josh for a summary of the project, some of the details. Megan's going to walk you through the CEQA process and what we've done there. And then we could open up the public hearing. The applicant does have a presentation that color copies that you see there. That's the applicant's presentation. That's not the county's presentation. And then we can discuss and deliberate any questions and then consider the recommendations. So in 2002, San Juan Oaks Golf Club submitted a tentative map identified as 02-67. That was approved in 2004 by the Board of Supervisors, which consisted of 156 single-family dwellings, 30 affordable dwellings, a resort hotel, a village commercial, including a fire station, 27-hole golf course, and some open space. In 2013, we received an additional application from this, for the San Juan Oaks specific plan, which included a general plan amendment, a zone change, and a development agreement. This proposal eliminated the new golf courses. It increased the residential areas by nearly 150 acres. It increased the residential units from 186 to 1,084 and increased the commercial uses from 7 to 14 acres. What you see behind me is an overlay of the old footprint of the project versus the new footprint of the project to show that this is being located, all the development is being located on areas that was previously planned to be golf course, so previously approved disturbed land. It's designated under a new general plan as planned development, which means that future development was anticipated to occur through its preparation of a specific plan. This is also in one of our new community study areas, which is potentially appropriate for more intense development due to, in this case, according to our general plan, access to Highway 156 and State Route 25. The fact that existing residential development had already been approved for the site, that significant natural resources are less prevalent here than some of the surrounding areas, and it avoids impacts to the reservoir and to the San Juan Hills. This is our 2035 general plan land use map showing the project site. At this point, I would like to turn it over to Josh Janowitz with Rincon Consultants, who worked on this project for the county, to give a more detailed project summary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the Board of Supervisors, members of the public. What's shown in this slide is essentially the land use diagram for the overall project. And as Byron previously mentioned, it includes 1,084 units, 1,017 of which are going to be age-restricted or senior housing units, which if you refer to the slide behind me, you can see that the western half of the project site includes the majority of the residential units, or the 1,017 age-restricted senior units, and the 67 market rate units are actually proposed to be located along the central and eastern portions of the project along the existing golf course. You'll also note that there is an amenity center proposed in the southern portions of the site, approximately in this location here. That area is proposed for development of up to a 25,000 square foot recreational space. The resort hotel is located slightly to the east of that facility. You can hopefully see that in blue. That is envisioned as a hotel including up to 200 rooms. The Village Commercial Center is located sort of at the intersection to the main project driveway and the proposed residential collector. There you can see shown in red as SJOC2. It's envisioned that this commercial space would include approximately 65,000 square feet of neighborhood-serving commercial uses. The parks and recreational spaces are located throughout the project. Approximately 17 acres of public open space is located at the project entrance, and you can see it's located there where the laser pointer is pointing. That 17 acres is going to include a number of publicly accessible amenities, including community gardens, trails, public restroom facilities, a parking area, and also community gardens. As you travel further south within the project, there is also another community park located adjacent to what is referred to the SJOAP area, or agricultural preserve. There's an additional park area that would include a dog park. Over 50 acres of on-site agricultural area are proposed to be preserved as part of the project, and in addition there's an off-site area encompassing approximately 150 acres that would also be preserved as part of this project to ensure that agricultural uses remain within and adjacent to the project site. The southern and eastern portions of the project site are going to be preserved as open space and wildlife habitat. And of course, the golf course, as Byron mentioned, would remain. In addition, and last but not least, you have the roadway and infrastructure circulation network that makes up the balance of the project. The specific plan is essentially a planning tool that is used to define the vision of the overall project. It is consistent with planning and zoning law in that it will implement the goals and policies of the county's general plan update. It essentially will function as a comprehensive design and construction manual which will guide the long-term build-out of the overall project. It is required by law to contain a detailed list of development standards. In addition, it meets the statutory requirements insofar as it contains a comprehensive set of land use and zoning diagrams, a list of permitted and conditionally permitted uses, and other maps and text that describe the infrastructure, financing, and phasing of the overall project. Typically, specific plans are a preferred method for planning large master plan communities such as this. The primary benefit is that it does provide a fair amount of land use flexibility, and it is oftentimes one of the more straightforward ways to entitle a large master plan community such as this. I'll briefly go through each of the elements. The specific plan includes 6 elements, which are highlighted here on the slide behind me. The Land Use and Development Standards chapter essentially describes the overall vision for the community. And just taking a quick quote from the specific plan, the idea is to create a regionally serving visitor recreation community to accommodate visitor serving activities with the resort hotel and the golf course components, to provide opportunities for local neighborhood shopping. The design guidelines component of the specific plan includes specific architectural requirements and also establishes site-specific development criteria such as setbacks, limitations on building height. It also gets into building materials and other sustainable design techniques, which are required to be incorporated into each dwelling and each parcel that is developed as part of this overall project. The circulation and streetscape design element primarily focuses on ways to accommodate the variety of vehicle and non-vehicle uses that are anticipated to traverse the project site. It talks about ways to accommodate, obviously, the traditional vehicle or the cars that we all drive. It also talks about golf courses, or golf carts, buses, and also pedestrian safety and bicycle safety are incorporated into the overall circulation design. The roadway configuration is designed to provide an interconnected network that serves both the passenger vehicles as well as pedestrian and bicycle uses to facilitate efficient vehicle travel. There was an emergency vehicle access planned to ensure that there is a connection between the proposed project and the future 156 roadway alignment. In addition, it also talks about the regional traffic and transportation improvements that would help to mitigate any regional traffic impacts created by the project. The infrastructure and public service element deals with issues such as storm drain, water improvements, also talks about public safety improvements, including the designation of over a 2-acre fire station site in case there's ever a need to expand fire service and emergency service within the area. It also talks about ways to accommodate future recycled water irrigation, and the project does propose to either connect to the existing Hollister wastewater treatment facility, or if that connection is unavailable, it talks about locating a site-specific wastewater treatment facility on the project site to ensure that all the wastewater generated by the project can be effectively treated. The parks and open space element that primarily deals with the active and passive park components that I previously described. And again, it also talks about the landscaping that's proposed to be integrated into the project, as does the resource management element of the specific plan, which deals more with the overall management of the biological habitat that will be preserved as part of the project. It also talks about how to fund these areas. The project will include a geologic hazard abatement district, which will include a mechanism for financing all of the open space preserve areas. And in addition, the project proposes to set up a community facilities district, which would fund and operate the on-site park facilities and also help with maintaining the landscaping and the other components of the project. And then finally, the administration component. Essentially, the specific plan identifies the county planning department as responsible for ensuring compliance with the specific plan, as well as ensuring compliance with the project mitigation measures and the mitigation monitoring program. Future approvals will be administered by the planning staff. The future approvals that are anticipated include future subdivision maps, the design review of each of the single-family residence and the recreational components, as well as possibly administering any required conditional use permits. To ensure that the project would be fiscally neutral and that it would provide benefits beyond those already included in the specific plan, the applicant did enter into a negotiation with county staff and has negotiated a development agreement. And the primary components of that development agreement include the formation of the hazard abatement district, which I previously mentioned, along with the community facilities district, the public parks and the private parks that I previously described. Another primary component was the contribution of what we're calling a community benefit fee, which is approximately $5.5 million that the county can use for street improvements, affordable housing, public safety, library services, and communication services. And then last but not least, it does also contemplate the long-term preservation of the open space preserve area. The fiscal neutrality was an issue that the county and the applicant addressed in detail. The applicant prepared a site-specific fiscal impact study, which was ultimately approved, or peer-reviewed rather, by the county staff. The project, ultimately, after implementing all the components of the development agreement, was determined to be fiscally neutral. And as a result, all those necessary provisions are included in the development agreement. And now I'll turn it over to Megan Jones, who will summarize the conclusions of the Environmental Impact Report. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. Good afternoon. My name is Megan Jones. I was the project manager for the environmental impact report for the project, so I'm going to briefly summarize that process and some of our findings. So the reason we prepared the Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, is to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. CEQA has really four main purposes. The first is really to inform decision makers and the public about the environmental effects of a project. So it's at its core a public disclosure document. The Environmental Impact Report is. Along with identifying the impacts, we want to try and mitigate or reduce those impacts. So we identify mitigation measures. We also look at alternatives to the project, which are again really aimed to reduce significant environmental effects. And then lastly, the CEQA process is really intended to provide the public with an opportunity to comment. So there's several stages in the process at which they can do that, including at today's hearing. The timeline for this process for this project began in October 2013 when we issued what's called a Notice of Preparation, or NOP. That starts a 30-day scoping period during which we receive comments from agencies and the public on what should be included in the Environmental Impact Report. We did hold a public scoping meeting during that time, so we got verbal comments at that meeting. We also received 2 comment letters on the Notice of Preparation. We then took that information, prepared the Environmental Impact Report, which was prepared as a supplemental Environmental Impact Report. So it was ultimately a supplement to the EIR that was prepared for the previously approved project. That was circulated for public review, so really the second chance for public input in the process, from June 23rd to August 6th. We received 3 comment letters on the on the draft Environmental Impact Report. We responded to those comments and prepared the final, which was released on September 4th of this year. The environmental review was fairly comprehensive. We looked at a wide range of issues. We looked at aesthetics or visual resources, primarily from public viewpoints or area roadways, agricultural resources, so conversion of farmland, air quality. In that, we looked at both construction impacts as well as operational impacts, so from vehicle use associated with the project. We looked at biological and cultural resources. Geology and soils, we looked at seismic hazard issues and other geologic and soil hazards. Greenhouse gas emissions and climate change really tied in with the air quality analysis, but looking at specific greenhouse gas emissions. Hazards and hazardous materials, hydrology and water qualities, your drainage and erosion. We also looked at land use and planning, including a fairly comprehensive policy consistency analysis. We looked at noise, again, for both construction and operation of the project. Public services, we looked at police, fire, ambulance services, schools, all of these public services that the project would place a demand on. Transportation circulation was a big one. And as Byron mentioned, we have Francisco Church from Fair and Pierce here who can answer specific questions related to that. And then utilities, we looked at water, wastewater, and again, we also have Greg Young with Tully & Young to answer questions about water. So of all of those issue areas we looked at, we did have a number of what's called significant and unavoidable, or Class 1 impacts. These are the impacts that we found would exceed applicable thresholds, and we identified mitigation measures, but for whatever reason, those mitigation measures were not adequate to reduce the impact below those thresholds. So the first one is greenhouse gas emissions. The emissions did exceed applicable thresholds. We identified a number of mitigation measures which would reduce those emissions. Those are required. In the event that those do not reduce emissions below the applicable threshold, the applicant is required to purchase carbon offsets to sort of offset that remaining amount. However, because the Board of Supervisors has not vetted a carbon offset program and also the projects that would be funded by that, the timing is a bit unclear. We did ultimately call that a significant and unavoidable impact. For noise, there's 2 separate impacts, but related. Both are during construction. The first one is related to noise at on-site receptors, and the second is related to vibration at on-site receptors. And we're really talking about the residences that are proposed. There would be homes constructed, and then there could be construction occurring very, very close to those homes when residents are living there. So it's really just because of that adjacency, there's really not mitigation available to reduce that below thresholds. But again, that's a temporary construction-related impact. Any impacts to off-site receptors, so any of your existing residences in the area, would be less than significant or less than significant with the mitigation that we identified. For traffic, there's 3 separate impacts, and that's really because we looked at 3 scenarios. We looked at existing plus project conditions, background plus project, and then a cumulative plus project. So in each of those scenarios, we had impacts for the existing plus project and the background plus project. There were impacts to the Union, Mitchell Road, and State Route 156 intersection, as well as the State Route 25, Airline Highway, and Union Road intersections. Both of those intersections the impact would be mitigated through various projects that we identified, including the Highway 156 widening project. But because all of these projects and these facilities are Caltrans facilities, it's really outside of the control of the applicant as well as the county, and we can't verify the timing of some of those improvements. So for those reasons, the impact is considered significant and unavoidable. But at the time that those improvements are completed, in the future, those impacts would be reduced. So that's a temporary sort of impact. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I think that's touching on an area that we have some real concerns with traffic at the intersection of Union Road, and I know San Juan Del Webb has put in improvements there, as well as at San Juan Oaks into Union Road. The cumulative traffic that is beyond Union Road and making its way onto 156, either going east or west, at full build out, is that intersection going to maintain a level of, I guess in our general plan it's D now as far as service, or is it does San Juan Oaks and that at full build out to change that LOS?
Anthony, we have a traffic person, consultant
Right.
that is here. Do you want to wait?
Maybe,
yeah, we
maybe
can-
that.
Either get into that now or wait
When you
until
do
the
your-
question.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What I'm a little bit concerned about is, if whether or not that traffic needs to be broken up. That's the only thing I'm concerned about this whole project, is whether there should have been a road just going out to Bixby and a light at that intersection. And there's probably good rationale not to. I feel both ways about it personally, using that road all the time. All it needs is another stoplight.
So what we can do is have her finish the presentation, and then we can come up. We have
Okay,
specific
then
questions.
that gives you time to think about it.
Have the traffic consultant come up and give us that information, so your question can be answered.
Yeah, we can get into that in detail if you like. So I think I covered all of these, and I was just getting to the cumulative plus project. I just want to point out that's a different intersection that's impacted in that scenario, and that is because the other intersections, some of the improvements are assumed in the cumulative scenario. So by the time we get to cumulative, those will be underway, and so those intersections would be operating under acceptable levels. So we also looked at alternatives. As I mentioned, it's something we're required to do by CEQA. We looked at a no project, no development alternative. So that's really what's on the ground now, nothing occurring. That's the CEQA required no project. We also looked at another version of the no project, which is build out of the existing land use and zoning. So that's essentially the currently approved project, so comparing the impacts of the two. We also looked at a reduced site development footprint that would reduce the area of the project and would slightly reduce the build out by about 17%. And then the reduced project would be within the same sort of build out area, footprint, and organization, but would reduce the total build out by 25%, so reducing the number of units. We compared the impacts of these alternatives to the project, and we identified that the no project, no development would be the environmentally superior alternative, and that's really just because nothing would happen. There would be no impacts. The next best alternative, so to speak, was the no project build out of the existing land use and zoning. However, that alternative would not meet a number of the project objectives. The other two alternatives would be largely similar to the project in the impacts. There would be a few impacts that would be reduced, but none of the significant unavoidable impacts would be reduced below threshold levels. And again, those would not meet the project objectives. So as I mentioned, we went out for public review. We received 3 comment letters. One was in support of the project. In response to the other 2 letters, we made 2 minor and non-substantive revisions to the draft EIR. One was to clarify emergency vehicle access within the project description, and that was really just to clarify that either end of that access road would have a locked gate. And the other revision was merely to update a reference that was outdated. So these amendments just serve to clarify and strengthen the content of the EIR and do not introduce new significant information or new environmental impacts. And I'll pass it back to Byron for closing remarks.
Thank you. So just to kind of wrap it up, San Bernardino County staff and Planning Public Works County Council's office, also the CAO's office, and Joe Paul's office also, you keep an eye on the fiscal neutrality, reviewed this project, and the Planning Commission also reviewed it and recommended approval in September. The environmental impacts have been reduced to the greatest extent feasible because CEQA informs but also helps us reduce the impacts. And then the project is located within an area of the county identified for future growth per the newly adopted 2035 general plan. So it's therefore staff's recommendation at this time that you open the public hearing and take public comment as well as if you'd like, the applicant has a presentation that they'd like to give as well. And we're also available for questions. But then the staff recommendation is to, your 6 actions, to approve the resolution that certifies the environmental impact report and adopts the findings in the MMRP, approve the resolution that approves and adopts the WSA, which is the water supply assessment, approve the resolution adopting the general plan amendment, approve the resolution adopting the specific plan, approve the ordinance adopting the zone change, and approve the ordinance that adopts the development agreement. And those items are listed in your staff report. I would look to council as far as if any clarity is needed as far to how to make the motion when we get to that point, if we get to that point. So we're available for questions, and that concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much, Byron. I think what we'll do at this time, I know Supervisor Botello had a question. Would you like to have it answered now before I open the public hearing, or go through the public hearing and then come back for questions from the board?
I think I would like ask that question
Okay.
now.
Very good. What we'll do is we have specific questions. The board can ask them at this time, and then we will open it up. We will open the public hearing. So if you could come up to the podium, please.
Madam Chair, while she's approaching the podium, if I could just clarify on the staff recommended actions to adopt all of the resolutions and adopt the ordinances, the wording of the proposed action, should the board want to adopt the resolutions and the ordinances, is spelled out on pages 2 and 3 in the staff report.
Okay. And I have been advised that it would be preferable to, if we are going to vote on those, is to take them individually. There are 7 of them. And so when it comes to that time, we will take them individually. How many? 6? Okay, I counted 7. Sorry. Okay. So go ahead, Supervisor Botello.
Thank you. Anyhow, the question that I wanted to address as far as, traffic is something that everybody is really aware of, I think not only in our own county, but statewide, and how it circulates. And this project is roughly about the same size, maybe a little bit larger than San Juan Bautista. Might be its largest Ridgemark. The rationale of the design and traffic studies to justify it having just one entrance in and out, is that something that was looked at a little bit deeper as far as putting in a second access point by somebody?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that question. And good afternoon. My name is Francisca Church, and I work for Fair and Piers. I was a project manager for the transportation, the TIA, for this project. And so in terms of the projects and looking at different access points, so the project currently includes one main access point that is served after 156 in the Union intersection, then down to Union and San Juan Oaks Drive. Generally speaking, Caltrans, when you have a state facility, which is 156, so if there was going to be a secondary access, it most likely, as you mentioned, would be off of 156, whether it would be in alignment with Bixie Road. Generally does not look to, Caltrans generally looks to limit the number of intersections on state facilities, and especially with the planned wideway roading of 156 from 2 to 4 lanes. Having an uncontrolled access point there, so if you did not have a signal, would, I think, introduce secondary concerns to the project, and Caltrans would likely not want to have a signal at that location. So for those reasons, I think a secondary access point was not considered as part of the project.
And the cumulative effects of, the growth that's anticipated in Hollister and the south portion of, that city and,
Sure.
and that the usage on Union Road at full build out, we'd still have the accommodation to move traffic through that intersection.
Yes, so the way we analyze the impacts of the traffic, as Megan had mentioned, there are three scenarios that we analyze, which is existing, which is based on 2013 counts, and then there is a background scenario, which then looks at all approved developments in the area, so from the city of Hollister and San Juan Bautista and surrounding jurisdictions, and adds that traffic onto there. And there's a cumulative scenario, which looks further out, 2030, for which we used a regional model to really, which basically assumes general plan build-out for all surrounding jurisdictions and what the traffic flows would be along that corridor. As part of the background scenario, which includes the approved projects, Caltrans is looking to widen 156. So without the widening of 156, the intersection of Union and 156, as documented, would operate unacceptably. However, Caltrans is looking, currently planned, I think the horizon year is 2019, to build construct the 156 widening, at which point then the level of service would be acceptable and the facility 156 would be wide enough to accommodate future growth within the area.
And, from my understanding, Del Webb's projects really put out less traffic than, your conventional type of projects.
Yes.
And we understand that. And those numbers are arrived at measuring traffic flows of comparable Del Webb's size and.
Yes, the trip rates are based actually on ITE rates. So ITE, Institute of Traffic Engineers, these are rates that are developed nationwide for specific development projects and looking at adult living facilities, which do in general, if you can imagine, generate less traffic than a single-family development, just because you don't necessarily have that commute pattern where you have household trips generating a lot of trips in the morning and traveling to employment centers and then coming back in the afternoon, or you have the trips more spread out throughout the day and people generally traveling outside of the peak, because the analysis in the IR really looks at the peak travel times, which is generally speaking between 7 and 9 a.m. in the mornings during a weekday, and then again around 4 to 6 in the afternoon.
Thank you.
Yes. Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. What type of traffic model did you use? Was it a hybrid model because of the residents that we're trying to target for this project? So you answered my question. Thank you, Supervisor Batal. Currently, what level of services do we have right now in the county? Is it a C or D at the moment?
Level service threshold?
Yes.
Level service D.
D. So
Yes.
during non-time, it goes down to C, right?
Say that again?
It'll go down to C during the non-time, the non-peak time.
During the non-peak time, the level service would go down to C.
Okay. So at full build out, and once Caltrans builds the 156, that will go down to the C, right?
So let me back up. So the level service threshold currently is level service D, and under existing conditions, the facility, the intersection Union 156 operates acceptably. We haven't measured traffic during off-peak times, so I wouldn't be able to attest to what the level of service is during the off-commute peak times. Though we did, in our analysis, when we projected to the future under cumulative, did measure that did estimate that the traffic or the intersection would operate acceptably at level of service D, I believe.
Okay. Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, he
Okay,
did.
thank you.
Yes, he did. Actually, Madam Chair, I don't have a traffic question. I do have a habitat question. So when that comes up, I want to ask a question on that one.
Okay, so what we can do is, after the public hearing, I'll bring it back to the board,
Okay.
and we can continue to ask questions as needed. Did you have a question, Supervisor?
No, I'll wait. Thank you.
You'll
Madam
wait
Chair.
until after the
Yes.
public hearing. Supervisor Rivas? None right now. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I think now at this time, unless Byron, I will go ahead and open the public hearing and then bring it back. So, okay, I will open up our public hearing. And Clerk of the Board, do you have any speaker cards?
I do, Madam Chair. Michael Groves. The applicant.
Okay, very good. The applicant can't go first. And then we will get, you have a speaker card. We'll start with the speaker cards. Thank you.
This one is you. Yeah. I got it.
Thank you, Madam Chair and supervisors. My name is John Johnson, and I'm here representing Del Webb and Pulte Homes. And after quite a long journey, we're here. And first of all, I want to start by saying that I want to thank that all through this process we've worked extensively with the county management and staff. You know, Ray, Joe Paul, Matt Granger, and his legal team, and Byron. It's been quite a journey, and we've found answers all the way. And so I think we've overcome many issues, and their good work has been very helpful. Rincon also and their team did a very good job, I felt, and I think that we have with that a very viable project that's going to bring a lot to the community. So the very first item that I'd like to discuss today is, because it was drilled into me by Mr. Granger at the very beginning, is that we will be income neutral. So the very first thing I'm going to show is, you want to click that one, is that there's a street. The county is not paying for any of these streets. Our homeowners association will pay for all the maintenance, care, and naturally in the development stage we do that. So I just say that as a starting place, that there's not any cost to the. And many times I'm going to mention this going through today, where there's issues that come up where there is not a cost to the county, or income is created by a certain way to handle that. The next slide shows phasing. A build-out of a community like this is going to take 4 to 5 years, but right off at the first phase, you get the sewer and water systems, the traffic improvements, our clubhouse that we'll be building. The parks come basically in phases 2 and 3. The open space dedications and also the fire station site. All that happens at the beginning. It's not like it's stretched way out in some long time period. The other thing in the active developed communities we have for Del Webb, they sell at a much higher pace than regular market rate communities. So our building cycle is shorter, even though it's a large number of homes. What follows the residential is the resort and the commercial development. Those items just don't happen until we have, as we say in the industry, roofs. We got to have people, and once that generated of people are living there and the activity is taking place, commercial follows behind that, as well as the resort and those kinds of facilities. The assisted living, skilled nursing, we added that into the commercial land, and I believe even from your own hospital group here, we're seeing some interest in that, and I think this is a very good supplement to put into a community like this. Even though it's not part of the Del Webb, it belongs still to San Juan Oaks ownership, but I believe that the developers will come quickly now and provide that kind of service here. The next item is the active adult buyer. So one of the things that is always interesting, at least to me, is, and I hope to you, is who are these folks? The active adult buyer is a lifestyle buyer. They are what we call 55 and better in age, and they're after socialization and active recreation within the community. So that's why we offer walking, biking, bocce ball, tennis, athletic facilities, pools, indoor and outdoor pools, all kinds of facilities like that. This group is very active in travel, education, arts, and volunteer opportunities, which the schools benefit greatly from. The average age is 62 years old, and typically this home buyer has a home already, and approximately $1 million in assets. That's kind of an average buyer. One of the things this kind of community creates is additional housing in your own community, because I think we've been well received so far by existing homeowners here now in your community, and when they come buy a house from us, their house is going to become available. So you're actually creating market rate housing by helping us do this community. So it's a very interesting synergy that's developed. This customer likes to be 1 hour from a major airport. They want medical services, and they want a college. We have all those right here. We have all those things that make that. And most importantly, they want a safe community. I can't overemphasize that. So I would not be sitting here today talking with you if this whole community was not considered safe, because this customer will not buy where it's not safe. And fortunately, this community is that way. They're active spenders. You will see them in your retail, in your all the retail operations you have already currently. You'll see them everywhere. Car dealerships, restaurants. These people don't put the money and put it under the mattress. These people are out living their life, doing a lot of different things. And so because we have this kind of a customer, they're very active in their spending habits. The HOA fees will run somewhere hopefully between $150 and $200 a month. We take care of the front yards, so these communities have a very defined, clean look at all times. We are projecting prices for these homes to range in the $300,000 to $450,000, and the $300,000 also actually reaches down into your affordable categories here in this community. We also provide solar capabilities. We don't put solar in ourselves, but we do. The houses are completely set up, so if someone wants to buy solar, they can do it. So there's a lot of opportunities like that. In the next item is this amenity center. The one we're thinking about actually doesn't even look like this, but this is just to demonstrate that there's a grand look, that there is something here for everybody, craft rooms, all kinds of activities. Many of these kind of communities have 30, 40, 50 what we call lifestyle groups, the travel group, the craft group, just all kinds of groups that we set up. And by the way, we do invite the grandchildren. The grandchildren do come to these communities, and we actually put in playground equipment for them as well, because we find more and more of the grandparents having grandchildren come over to see them, and that's something that we encourage. What this group also does, which is interesting, is that I think that I've heard a lot about your wine country, wine trail, and so forth. It will get a big boost from this group. They are very much active in these kind of communities, and they love that kind of activity. So restaurants and tourism will follow. Also, hotel, motel space will come, because these folks, the homes are not necessarily made to have, the 20 relatives show up for the holidays. So a lot of hotel rooms get rented because of that particular situation. Next thing is the walking, mobility and circulation. Typically, if folks move in with 2 cars 18 months later, whether we have a golf course or not, they will have an electric car. One of the cars will be electric. So if someone invites Sam over here and he's at the other end of the community, they typically don't jump in their car, they jump in their golf cart and drive it over there. So it's very interesting dynamics that we have, because these people are out and about walking and bikes, and we'll see in a minute some more trails and so forth. So we pay a lot of attention to this, and it is important that we provide those services. Next item is the bike trails. All of you, I think, know well the San Juan Oaks Drive as you come in, and this picture shows you that there will be a 4-foot trail on each side of this, a bike trail on each side of this of that road the whole distance, and it will encourage people within the community. Our active adult community, there are 5 miles of walking and trails. And in the one park that we're building, one of the parks specifically, there's almost a mile of walking trails. So there's a lot of attention is paid to these activities. As Supervisor Bortelli brought up about the traffic, I know it's a concern, and we have worked with this all the way through, and Joe in Public Works, Joe Royal, has helped us through this process, and trust me, it's very difficult, as you all know, because many of you have had meetings with Caltrans through this process. It's hard to get answers many times on timing. They're currently, even though in the traffic, Francesca said is 19, they're telling us now 17. It's funded. They're going to do it. That's what they're telling us. But in the meantime, the entrance of San Juan Oaks and Union will get a traffic light immediately. That's like day one, not day one, but it would be done immediately. The improvements to 156 intersection will be coordinated with Caltrans. We can't just go out there, and neither can you, by the way, just go out there and do improvements to that intersection. We got to work with Caltrans. It's their road. And with that, we expect a lot of help, and I know we'll get it from Public Works, because we have to help. We've all got to work together to make those improvements happen. And we are as interested in them as you are, by the way, because we cannot have unsafe conditions. And so that's important. The next one is, let's see here, roadway improvements. So I guess maybe got ahead of myself here. The active adult housing trips are less, and they're different from the typical single-family housing. I think probably one of the things to say here is that we are doing improvements on Bixby that was brought up. That one, because it's a Caltran area, we make a contribution to that one. The one on 156 and Union, we actually may be involved in doing actual work there, but contributing the money to make it happen. And then we have another one which was found in the traffic study, which is Union and 25. And so there's a right turn needed there. And so on that one is we are in actually, I started design on that this week. So that design is underway, and we'll be working with Public Works on that particular item. The traffic studied very, very extensively, and there's quite a substantial amount. We're paying almost, in addition to improvements, but almost $6 million in traffic fees to supplement many of the costs of the county. All right, the next item is, it was touched on earlier, is if you look at this chart, you can see that the active adult AM peak hours was 373. If it was a regular neighborhood community, it would be 562. And then you can see down below 806 and 1,085. We are approximately 46 to 50% of normal market rate housing traffic. And that has been proven over and over and over. Francisca's firm used a model, but if you went up and studied all the big projects we've done in the Sacramento area, it's been proven, in fact, by her firm over and over, that those models are good because the traffic is just less. Next item is Olive Hill Park, and this is actually will be a county park. And however, and this is the one that's got about a mile of walking space in it. It's more passive. It's more made for views. To keep the olive, it's our entrance. We want to always keep this nice, but it will be county property in the dedication. And also the funding of the maintenance of that will be paid for by these owners, by the HOA, not by the county. The county does not pay to maintain this park. And if we turn the page to the next one, this one is a more active park. It has community garden, and by the way, some of these items, and we worked through your Parks Commission, and they gave us a lot of input, and we addressed their questions and issues, and I think we came out with a very good result. And we have here a park that's got a dog park in it, it's got a community garden, it's got an active park, and we're also going to build a historical, kind of falling on your historical park, where we have a walking signage area, and we're going to work with the Historical Society for San Juan Valley, the history of San Juan Valley and the agricultural and all, whatever we can put about history, we're going to put there. And I think it should be very interesting and encourage people from the community to do this. Next item, rather than go through this, the green building practices. If you look in the specific plan, and this is just a brief outline of some of these items, I might just tell you, you don't have to tell us to be green. Our customer wants us to be green, and Pulte believes that is the right thing to do. So we are doing green very actively. And so is there more to do? Every time something new comes along, we add to that particular item. So the next item is water conservation. A lot of energy today is spent on water, and we have Mr. Young here's today. He can answer your kind of questions. It's a lot of interest there on what's going on. We designed early into a lot of conservation, and we put that into the plans, reduced amounts of grass, and all our landscape architects are instructed to give us very, very efficient plans for the use of water. And so I feel very confident that we will have a community that will be light on water and use only what is needed. Which also brings up the next one is that we will be building the water system and water tanks. There's an existing water tanks and system there now that takes care of the golf course and the golf clubhouse. We will be building a parallel, all new one for the rest of the community, and that we have a purveyor, and it's Golden State Water, which is one of the largest in the state of California, and they will be the owner and operator of this facility, which is the water and the sewer systems, and they will contract with the city. So it's not John Johnson's water company that's doing this, okay? So you understand. I say that in jest, but it is truly a large company that's going to provide that kind of stuff. They do 75 communities throughout the state, and they're very well known, and they can be researched very easily. They're financially very solvent. So we have adequate local groundwater. That's been proven by your consultants and our consultants both, and we feel very comfortable with that. And the project utilizes existing regional wastewater treatment facilities, and I think that's an important thing. We will be going after these meetings. We go to the city and LAVCO to have them approve us to become into their system, and so that we can connect to the wastewater plant, which it's my understanding from day one has always been is the plant, even though it's owned by the city, is thought of as a regional thing, and so we're going to be supporting and writing checks to them that they can pay bond payments with. So I think that's a good thing for you and for us both. It's also important that because it is San Juan Valley and that agriculture is important, I believe we weren't even actually requested or needed to do this, but we thought it was appropriate. So there's 194 acres, 153 acres up by San Juan Bautista, and then there's 40-some acres on site that will go into permanent ag easements. So it'll be forever. You know, those properties will always be in the ag domain. And then the next item is the wildlife preserve. We're not building on the hills. There's no activity going on the hills, and the only thing we're going to see on the hills is cows. You know, and we got to keep cows for fire control. But what we have is those views and those vistas are going to stay, and we very much like those views and vistas. So we took all of our development and kept it on the land that was lower, and also we are preserving all the healthy trees that are on the existing site. There's quite a few. I think there's 40-some oak trees. 2 or 3 are diseased and will need to be replaced. But on the whole, the trees are going to be preserved that are on the flat land. So we have a 1,243 acres that will go into a permanent reserve, and that will be your local land trust will be a part of that. But we have a company that will manage that called Wildlife Heritage out of Roseville. And they manage these kind of things. And again, you don't pay for it. Our residents pay for that maintenance of that. So again, you do not pay for that. And it's important that we keep telling you that just because we're doing something, it doesn't mean we hit into the bank accounts of the county. That's not accurate. The next item is the work we did with management, which was an interesting exercise because many times as we come to counties or cities, they have certain needs within the community, and you, like all communities, have several. And so what we finally decided on is rather than Del Webb thinking about should we do this or do that, what I mean by that, should we do street improvements or county communications or affordable housing or any of those kind of things, it would be better to leave that to the discretion of the county. And so what we negotiated a dollar amount that comes in fairly rapidly to the county, and once we start, I think you can rely on that and leave that full discretion to you. So we are not proposing to do any of those things. We're saying we'll give you the money, and I worked with the county management, with Ray and Joe Paul, and several of those items, and we talked about what you might want to do with it, but we are not trying to influence any of that. It's really yours to decide. So we pay the money, and you figure out what to do with it, and I think that's a good combination. The next page is 2 major items that the county had a need for was what's generally called public safety. and that could fall into various categories, but generically police and fire and so forth. And again, we didn't try to set budgets or do any of that. We studied your budgets, and we negotiated with Joe Paul and Ray, and we came up with that we would contribute $200,000 per year, and that's that build out. We come up incrementally as we build towards it. And when we're all done, you're going to get $200,000 a year to pay for those things. And then there's in the CFD, and we're going to be back to you for the CFD. We'll be coming back to you for that approval. And when you do, you'll also have a beginning number of about 52.8 to take care of the 2 parks that we discussed previously. So that, again, the county is not paying for those. We are providing a source of revenue for you to have that. The next one, which I found is interesting, is developments like this create such big dollars, it's hard to even think about them sometimes. But San Benito County will, through impact fees and different various fees, as we pick up building permits, will, through the life of this project, get approximately $31 million. So that's a lot of money that's going to come to the county over approximately a 5-year period. And the city of Hollister, because of the sewer wastewater plant, will get about $9 million. Out of interest, to show you how dynamic that is, your public works department is always challenged for funds, as you well know, the budgets and the number of people you can have. So over the next 4 years, this one community will put something greater than $2 million. Out of that $31 million will go just to the public works department. And I think that's pretty substantial and an important amount of capital that you can use at your discretion. The other thing is, when we negotiated the development agreement, we have a 15-year development agreement, but the fees are only locked for 7.5 years. So the first year we lose to development. We're grading, we're doing all the work to get ready to build houses. So realistically, we have something less than 6 years to complete the project. At the end of 7.5 years, whatever your fees are, then that we would be required to pay those. So we're locking fees. That helps us do our economics in the near term. But you know it's not forever. It's for a defined period of time. And the reality, even though it says 7.5 years, the reality is it's about 6, because the first year we don't really sell a house because we're building the facilities. The next item that we did is back to the point that Mr. Granger gave us very early about being income, being neutral as far as the county was concerned. And we did scenarios where we had an economist do some work on these things. And when we hit build out, you should have a surplus out of this project of about $1 million a year when we hit build out. And the county should be positive in all cases as we go through this. So you can see it here as per house, or you can look at it as an aggregate as well. Next item, which is always interesting when we talk about an active adult community, is schools. And schools, when we hit build out, as a matter of fact, we pay about $1,000 a house in fees, because by Sterling law, state of California, we pay 51 cents a foot. That's about $1,000 a house. So starting in 17, the school districts are going to get $1 million approximately in the next 3 or 4 years. But when at build out, what's the results at build out? At build out, as you can see here, we are the Roma San Juan's Unified District is going to receive approximately $2,800,000, and the San Benito schools get $160,000, and $400,000 is Galvin College, and so we don't put any children in this school district, but yet these monies will be flowing to the school district. And I recognize they are a different organization than the county supervisors, but I think it's a part of your community to make your community better. And this is one of the ways it'll do it. By giving someone money like a school district and not actually putting children in that district, you will find that they have their budgets are in better control. And all school districts are challenged all the time. So that if the next item is jobs, and we hear it every day on the TV set, every day, jobs. And so one of the things that this kind of community does, it creates a lot of jobs because of the activity. As you can see in the average jobs, it starts out during construction. There'll be 634 new jobs right off the bat. And you can see all the revenue. That's all the economists talking here. But to me, I just look at the jobs. I want to know how many people are going to be working. And so the ongoing total impact is about 547 jobs at the end. But also, just for you to know, Scott in the golf course out there has somewhere between 30 and 50 people working all the time. The Del Webb community, even when we are finished developing and have generally left and is now operated by the residents, there will be another 30 or 40 jobs. So I think there'll be like 80 or 100 jobs out there forever once it's built. So, and that's not even counting potentially the resort or the commercial or those kinds of things. And again, the commercial is very defined. It's neighborhood commercial, coffee shops, insurance, financial services. We always get various kinds of medical and dental that come in, but nothing, no big stores really. It's neighborhood things that give services to the community out there, and hopefully some people come from out of the area to come there. And all this is not Del Webb dreaming this up. This has all been proven out many times with by the economists, and they study these things over and over, and that's how we come up with this information. So we look at your budgets and we look and see what happens in other communities, and that's where we get there. So with that, again, it's been a journey, and it's been a very interesting journey, and I would like to ask for your approval today of what I think is one of the finest communities that you're going to see in the Bay Area once we get a chance to build it. So I'm obviously open for any questions, and hopefully I've not taken too long here, but I wanted to be sure that you understood anything, and any question that you have, I will be glad to field that question. All right?
John, my question is this.
Yes.
The last part of your presentation has to do with jobs.
Yes.
How are you going to include local companies, construction, supplies, materials as you build out? Is there a plan to do that?
Yes. What we do is we use local vendors as much as possible. Let's take an example. If we're going to hire a particular, let's say, plumbing companies. So it doesn't make sense to hire a plumbing company that's 100 miles away and ask them to drive down here and work. So we go to all the local vendors of all the trades and see what's available. In some cases, we actually help them develop their business because we can give them enough business over 4 or 5 years where they can actually grow their business. And so we don't want to have commuting issues or you can't get here for work, because once this starts, it's very intense. So things like solar applications, household goods of any and all kinds, the building trades. We have to buy lumber where we buy lumber. The company does not own a roofing company that's in Minnesota or something. We buy from the community, and some of it will come from San Jose, some will come from Salina, who knows. Wherever they are, we will seek them out, as well as here, obviously. So yes, there's a real campaign to get local vendors to be a part of this program. And sometimes the job is so huge, it's hard for them to adapt. So we cut out pieces and parts and try to have them do.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I don't mind
Yeah.
pieces and parts and them filling in.
Yeah. So sometimes if I come to you and said, I want you to plumb 20 houses a month, and you have 2 people that work for you, you can't do it. Now, maybe you can hire some, and maybe you could do 5. You see what I'm saying? So we work with those kind of folks.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is actually a lot of effort put into that.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Supervisor Munzer has a question. And Supervisor Batella.
Okay. In the first presentation, there was mention open space, and I didn't write down how many acres they were talking about.
I think I blew over that one. I think there's a total.
No, not in yours. In the
Yeah. 1,243.
not the wildlife preserve.
Not the wildlife. The ag.
No, it's the on-site open space that's within the community, John. I think it's approximately 150 acres, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
150 acres.
So that is not.
That's just we'll call it community open space is what we'll call that.
Okay.
So
my question.
common areas.
Okay, my question is, how would that open space be maintained?
That actually it's mostly ag land. Isn't that correct, Scott?
Within the community.
Oh, it's within the community. It's within the community. So we take care of that.
So okay. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that will be maintained.
Yeah.
I know we have a project in which the houses were clustered. The rest of the acreage was left in open space, and that open space does not look good.
Yeah, I hear you.
So that will be maintained.
No, we can't do that. Our customers, that we would last about 2 minutes if we had a lot of that. So that all that is maintained by.
Okay. Then my next question is because we have another golf community that's going through issues, will the golf course itself be part of the open space or declared open space? You mentioned that we will have golf out there forever.
No, but I don't know that to be a fact, right? Because I don't remember. Now, I don't own the golf course.
Okay, so
Scott owns the golf course. So the golf course, however, because of this project, the golf course is going to make some substantial economic improvements to the golf course. So they are going to be doing that. And we are providing part of that capital, but the owner is going to be doing a lot of work there. So the golf course is the golf course. There's 260 acres or something like that, and that's it's its own entity and it stays like it is. Am I answering your question?
Yes, but not the way I want to hear it.
Okay, all right.
Again, because of the issues going on in our other golf community, and which have been major issues that this board has gotten involved in, I personally feel that we need to look at how that golf course is going to be designated, whether the golf course will be designated open space or something, so that in 20 or 30 years or 40 years, we're not repeating what we're doing here, and all of a sudden the golf course says we can't maintain ourselves, we want to shut it down, we want to build on it, and the residents that will be out there at the time will be up in arms.
Okay.
So, Supervisor Munder, just to clarify, the San Juan Oaks Golf Course is not part of this project.
Yeah,
it has nothing. It has something to do with the project. In that, what I think John's saying is that the San Juan Oaks development.
Isn't that part of? Aren't they part of the specific plan?
No.
They are not part of the specific plan.
They are actually. It's a land use designation within the specific plan. And just to clarify, essentially, there's no major. There are some renovations planned, I believe, and Scott could go into more detail, but there aren't any major renovations planned for the golf course, other than the minor ones that Scott could go into. But there is a formal land use designation established as part of the specific plan. So, if any plans in the future included building something else other than a golf course on this property, as an example, that particular developer would need to come back and ask the county's permission to change the land use designation to allow something else to be present on that property.
Okay, so the fact that this will be a specific plan, the golf course is part of that plan, will give us some protection.
That's correct.
Okay,
It's
all right.
formally designated.
Okay, then that answered my question.
But it already has its use permit. It's not.
No, I understand all that. I understand all that. Sure.
further-
Yes, I understand all that. And then I guess my last question is, John, you mentioned installing a light at Union and San Juan Oaks Drive almost immediately.
Yes.
Now, if Caltrans does improvement on Union Road itself as part of their project, will your traffic light be able to handle the improvements that they do on Union Road?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes.
They'll be
That's
coordinated.
all being planned, and Public Works is helping us through that process. So the answer is yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Supervisor Batella?
Yeah, just a point of clarification, probably real easy, but I just have to have it. The 200,000 county public safety at build out, but as we're going through the phases, there's a little bit of money revenue generated as we go forward. It's not build the whole project out, then the clock starts.
No. Every time every time a house closes, because we're going to come back to you about the CFD, which is under. You're going to approve that CFD eventually for us, and then that becomes a part of the tax. It goes on the tax bill. So every time a house closes, you now have a new taxpayer, and part of that payment is going to be there.
That's
Okay.
what I want to make sure.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
for sure. Yeah. So we did a lot of work about where the money's coming from and where it's going.
Yeah.
there's not any coming this way. There's a lot of going that way. That's where it's going.
Makes it easier for us.
Yeah, it makes it's easier to count that way, right?
Okay, Supervisor De La Cruz?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of to what Supervisor Munzer was saying, and I burned a lot of political cloud during that time when we had that one situation on the board. So my understanding is that if moving forward 20 years from now, if a developer decides to go from an 18 to a 9, and the residents around the neighborhood who bought homes there with the assumption it's an 18 hole, they're not going to come to the board of supervisors and say, "You promised us an 18 hole. Why are you developing the other 9 or doing something else?" We're not going to see that in 20 years. Correct?
No, I don't think you will, because in the HOA documents, that will be made very clear, like the disclosure. That'll be a disclosure. We don't own the golf course, and so we can't promise anything in that territory because we don't have ownership of it.
Okay.
So I don't think you're going to see that.
I'm sorry, sir.
That didn't protect us in the present situation.
Yeah.
But the way it is set up is that anything that happens there, because of this plan that we're doing now, which is you have the say.
Okay.
Everybody's got to come to you. They got to keep coming to you.
Okay.
For any
just make sure,
changes.
Luis, we have all that recorded. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, and then in the job creation, and I appreciate that you're looking out for the local folks, because it is very important. We represent the local community. I want to go a step further. I want to make sure that there's an ability, like a mentorship or a training program, just like the way that labor unions have it, which you look out for individuals, members of the community, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. Start preparing them for these jobs that are going to be coming around: gardening, landscaping, all these other jobs that we could actually hire for local folks. Because thank you for all the money that the community is going to generate from it, but I'm greedier. I'm more greedy. I want jobs for our community that our local people can benefit from it too.
It's not a part of today's event, but I'm hearing you, and what we can do is. We can work with the county, the community college,
yes,
and the high school. There's things we can do, and there is such a labor shortage today in our industry. It behooves us to have more training.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in big trouble for developing houses. In fact, we have a project that's been selling very successfully. It's happened to be a market rate housing in Sacramento. We've had to quit selling because we can't deliver houses. We cannot get the trades. So it's a problem, and we recognize that.
Thank you.
I think those are things we can do.
Thank you. Madam Chair, my final question or comments is that every time an item like open space, habitat, my first thoughts were just, okay, who's going to pick up that additional cost moving forward? And every time when I think of that, your response was, we're covering it. We're covering it. I'm happy you're saying that today, because when 5 years, 10 years on the road, it becomes actually a very expensive activity.
Yes.
You're covering it.
Absolutely.
We're good.
Absolutely. Well, we are covering it initially, but eventually the homeowners who buy
Understand.
here, that will be a part of the financing program that's put together, and they will be responsible. So to maintain that open space today is about somewhere between $50 and $60,000. In 10 years it's going to be what, 100 and something, right, or whatever. The community will that community, not the county, will be responsible for paying and maintaining that open space.
In your presentation, you have a $52,000 or $57,000 annual expense for maintaining the parks.
The two parks.
The two parks. Is that a dollar that's going to be adjusted moving forward, or
Yes.
that's a max of allocation every year?
Yes. And when I come back for the CFD, you will have lots of chances to ask me those questions again. Okay. But it will have incremental change. Okay. In other words, nothing costs less. Well, maybe gas did for a while, but everything costs more. So we have to. Whenever we put a CFD together, it's got to have a mechanism to let costs move up.
Yeah, I'm very humble, and I'm very happy that we're hearing these words before the board today. We're going to pick up that additional cost.
Yeah.
There is a CPI involved. There is these costs, because in the private business, whatever you buy today doesn't cost the same tomorrow.
No.
And so it's important that we hear that from developers coming to the board of supervisors, and the whole public understands that you're willing to play ball with that figure.
As a matter of fact, Joe Paul asked me, because when we do the CFD, which we're just starting the formation of it, and you'll see it in a couple months before you, he said, well, we haven't got any money in this thing. So we offer to put in the first couple years, because it's going to be negative until we get a few houses closed. So we're putting in day one $40,000 on the first map. That'll go right into the CFD. So you should never be negative on the parks.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't happen.
Yeah, the only part I'm jealous is that San Juan Bautista's getting, what, $2 million
For the
in
schools?
Yeah, what the heck? Why can't we go over here and get
About
money?
right.
No wonder he doesn't ask that many questions.
He had a secret.
I think I don't want to get in the middle of that question. If you don't mind.
Supervisor Rivas?
Yeah, I don't actually have any questions. I just want to make a couple comments, and that is, I understand as being a member of this board that there's no perfect project. And I've certainly been very critical of a lot of things as a board member. But I have found this project to be the closest thing to perfect. I think you guys have been extremely easy to work with. You guys have been efficient. I recall the initial meeting I had with you maybe 2 or 3 years ago. You've you have held true to everything that you said in our initial meeting. I appreciate that. Mr. Fuller has been fantastic. And all I want to say is thank you for addressing a need in our county, which is senior housing. I think this is a project that we desperately need to attract new residents, but also to bring something to our current residents, to give them more options, and to have the opportunity to live. And in what I've said is possibly one of the best locations in our county, which is San Juan Oaks. I really enjoy living. I enjoy. I would love to live out there someday, but I really enjoy going out there and golfing. But to have our local residents have the opportunity to go out there and live there is going to be, a great opportunity for them, because this truly is a great location in our county. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you for making those comments. Thank you.
John, you've answered. Thank you. You've answered most of my questions. The lawns, I've always been concerned about lawns, especially in this drought. But you have addressed that you're going to be use native plants and minimize. Hopefully, you don't use lawns at all if you can avoid it. 30% of the water we use is on lawns, and that's not a good thing right now. So,
we have a saying about this is that we don't want great big lots with great big backyards, because this buyer has already had the big backyard.
Yes, exactly.
They don't want another one.
So you've addressed that. Now,
so yes is the answer.
Okay, thank you. The facilities within the community, will any of those be open to the public?
No.
Okay,
Unless they're invited.
unless they're invited.
Now, what happens is in our clubhouse, you will see, it's not like Scott's Clubhouse where they have, you have weddings and you have all those kind of things,
Right.
but there will be a continuing education or lifestyle thing. So your community will be there more than you think, but it is privately.
But it'll be by invitation.
by invitation,
And
yes.
planned
Yes.
use. So, okay. And the connectivity of the parks and the open spaces, I know that was one of the things that you and I talked about, is connecting with our current master plan of our current and future parks. And I see that has been addressed per the location.
Yes.
That in future we can connect to
Yes.
hopefully Park Hollister Hills and other areas, but it will not be through the conservation easement of the 1,200 acres.
No, the biology is just so. We wanted to, but remember the first time I talked to you?
Yes, I remember.
We thought we wanted to put some walking trails up there. Biology, the answer is no.
Okay.
I mean, they slapped our hands really early on that one. We said you can't be there.
Okay.
So,
well, it's understandable because you would have to cut in through all the hills, and that
Yeah.
would be a great disturbance for any wildlife there.
yes,
So.
exactly.
Okay. And you've already answered that you have an organization that is going to be in charge of the 1,240-something
Yes.
acres, so that'll be a forever thing. It's
Yes.
in perpetuity.
Yes.
Okay. And if not them, it'll be somebody else like them that will
That's correct.
take care of it.
Yeah.
The mitigation for the traffic, you have coordinated with Caltrans, so anything that you do at San Juan Oaks Drive, and Union will coordinate with whatever Caltrans is going to be doing at 156.
Yes.
So all of that will be in connection
Yeah.
with and conversation with Caltrans. Is that what I heard?
That's correct.
Yes. Okay. And then the local contractors, you've answered my question on that, and I think that's all I had. So, one more thing, it's up on top. The noise to the residents, you're going to build out over 4 to 5 years, and you'll have residents already on the site. So you start phase 2. You're going to take measures to make sure that these residents know that theirs is not the only phase, that they will have to put up with that kind
Yes.
of.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that, because they're sensitive to this kind of traffic, noise, dust, all of that, which I'm sure will be mitigated, but making sure that they are aware of it way in advance so that they can prepare, take their vacation, do whatever
That's right.
during that time.
There's a
So-
big effort made in that whole area because we can't have our customers unhappy. No. So we have to, there's everything from the certain kinds of mufflers on the equipment to dust control, and there's a whole protocol of what we do. And also your Public Works Department works with us on that as well. So we have a combination of how we do certain things to make that as palatable as possible.
But as importantly, is making sure you notify these folks way in advance as to when this is going
Oh,
to
yes.
occur. So-
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you
Any
very
other
much.
questions? One more.
Trying to say the right words, the correct words on this. The prices on the homes, they're not going to be the same, right? They're all going to vary, right, with a
Yes.
certain range based on design,
Square footage?
square foot. Well, same thing. Design,
So
square
because the
footage.
homes will range in size, and we've long ago given up to say we know better because it doesn't work. If we build big houses, they want little ones. We build little ones, they want big ones. So we have a range of homes. We'll actually build about 10 to 12 models, and they'll range in square footage from approximately 1,400 to 2,500 square feet.
So it would be more based on function needs.
On function. Well, it's what we call lifestyle, the lifestyle of living, all right? Because this buyer has certain desires for how they want to live in the house, and
Okay.
we've studied that to death. So we spent a lot of time on what that interior design is going to be like. Plus, in the specific plan, there's all kinds of craftsman's cottage. I mean, there's all kinds of exterior designs as well. But the important thing is the interior lives to fit this customer. They're all one story. All one story. They all got, tile roofs. In that regard, they're the same, but the interiors are all different. Many kinds of different lifestyles.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, well then, anybody, you have speaker cards? Thank you, John. We
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
all your
Thank you.
answers and your presentation. Okay, you had called up somebody earlier,
Yes, Madam Chair. Michael Groves.
okay?
Yeah.
3 minutes. I've never been held to 3 minutes. Madam Chair, board members, Michael Groves, president of EMC Planning Group, but I'm here to represent myself today. So that's kind of an unusual position for me to be in, but this has just been such a premier project in this county for so long that I just felt really strongly that it's important to have this project before you and have this project approved today. So, before I got into assisting the county staff with the general plan, this was a premier project, and when we got into the general plan, we realized what a great project this is. And in fact, we didn't even have it in the hospitality zone. We didn't have it in the wine corridor. So we amended the general plan as part of that process, the maps of the general plan, to actually show it in the hospitality zone. So it's a really important project. It's not only a residential project. Because there's a specific plan, this project has been recreated. And I think they have done an incredible job of recreating a project that was already approved, and now they've recreated it and put it under a specific plan, which gives you more authority in terms of having a plan. The question that was asked about the golf course is a very clear answer, and the fact that it's designated under the specific plan, they have to come back to the Planning Commission and the board and ask for a change in that designation or amendment to that designation. That wasn't the case in Ridgemark. And so it does take a little pressure off the board in the short term because of that specific plan that you now or will have in place if you approve it. Habitat mitigation, one of the other things I think is really big is habitat mitigation is really hard to do in California. It's hard to, most developers don't address that up front. They spend time at the end, and it spends another 2 years trying to go through the agencies and getting their projects done. This project has addressed habitat mitigation from the get-go. It's been involved in it. They've created a special district. They're going to be funding the preservation of that area. They're going to be funding the long-term maintenance of that area. And I think that's a real blessing for the county to have that area in open space in the hillsides and have that habitat preservation. You've got 1,243 acres. Fiscal neutrality is something that I've been in front of this board about many times. We've talked about it as a general plan process. What a great thing that they're doing in terms of creating the districts they're creating for maintenance, the homeowners associations for maintenance. And I think one of the biggest things is the dollars to the community. I think one of the things that's not often realized, and I had the privilege of touring Lincoln, which is also an active adult community, and seeing what happened in that community and the changes in that community from having this type of a project. What the clientele that they will have will be people like myself, who's an old man now, will come in and live in that community. If I retire, what am I going to do? Well, I'm already a baseball coach, so I'm going to want to teach in the community. So what I saw in Lincoln is I saw engineers, doctors, lawyers going out into the community and really just helping in the schools, the education in the schools, and doing such a great job of infusing not only their money but also their wisdom into the community.
Mike,
so
thank you so much.
One last piece. I want to acknowledge Ken Jamali, who's in the back of the room. What a great man. He had plenty of chances to do this project a lot earlier. He waited for the right project to come along. He's a great man of integrity. And I just want to acknowledge him for having the wherewithal to bring this forward and bring the right project forward. And Scott Fuller, who's a great leader in the community, has been in front of this the whole way through.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Somebody has a question for you.
Mike, before you step down.
You get to stay up there more than 3 minutes. How did that happen?
When do I not get a question?
I just want to thank you for coming back. Yeah. And I think you did only get 3 minutes. The other half an hour you were standing at the podium, we were beating up on you. So I want to thank you for coming back and speaking out on this project. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And not getting beat up this time.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, actually, Madam Chair, you're not going to charge the county for your time up there, right?
I was thinking about it. I'd send you an invoice. So.
Okay.
Michael Smith.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Michael Smith. I moved to Hollister 20 years ago, became actively involved in the community. I am now one of those typical people that wants to sell my 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house in Hollister, move out there, enjoy everything that this project offers. So I'm asking you to support it and approve it. And I also wanted to say something about the water. Golden State Water is one of the leading investor-owned water utilities in the state. There are some other benefits in partnering with a investor-owned utility in terms of additional tax revenue to the county and franchise fees probably. But also investor-owned utilities like to also invest in the community in terms of joining service clubs and donating to charity and giving back to the community, that they tend to be very good citizens. Also, with respect to San Juan Bautista, there's a potential partner there. San Juan Bautista has some difficult water challenges that they could partner with a well-financed expert water company like Golden State Water. So with that, I just want to ask you again, please support the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Marty Richmond.
Good afternoon. Just as an aside, I want to tell you the video was working perfect this morning. I was watching,
I'm so glad.
because when it doesn't work, I always come complain. It was working absolutely perfectly. Great pictures this morning. I don't know if it's the new system or what. So anyway, Marty Richard from Hollister. You all know I'm in support of this project. I won't go into any details because we've beaten them to death, and you've got a gaggle of experts over here that can answer all your expertise questions. There is one thing that concerns me greatly, and that is I'm afraid this project's going to spoil you rotten, and that anybody else who comes in here with a project, you're going to say, gee, we got this from Del Webb and Pulte Homes, and they had this and they had that. How come you don't have it? So the only fear I have is the next 50 projects that come through here, nothing's going to get approved. Thank you for your time.
Marty, Madam Chair, Marty, you read my mind.
Okay, next person.
Jerry Tome.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
My name's Jerry Thome. My wife and I were both born, raised, lived all our lives in San Benito County. This is our home. We're both retired. I from a life of construction. The last 40 years I've been in construction. The last 25 years I've been a building inspector for the city of Gilroy. I've seen many developments in my life. Eagle Ridge being one of them. I did the clubhouse, a lot of homes up there. My wife and I have visited the Del Webb community in Manteca twice. What I see is a well-maintained community, very nice, very beautiful. What I see looks very nice. And like I said, I've seen a lot of them. This gives us an opportunity, and on a personal basis, this gives us an opportunity for people like myself and my wife to retire in a nice community that's safe and enjoy the quality of life that retirement can offer us. And I really look forward to this project. I'm hoping you folks find today that you can pass this project for the benefits of people like us in the community. That's on a personal basis. On a San Benito County residence basis, I see a lot of perks in it for this county. I see money and growth, services. I see a win for the personal end of it. I see a win for the county end of it, which this is our home. I said we've been here all our lives, and I hope you folks find a place or a way to make all this work. Thank you for your concerns. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thome.
Paul Schmella.
This will take a lot less than 3 minutes. My name is Paul Schmella. My wife and I live in Monterey. We've been looking for a Del Webb community to retire in, and we'd like to stay on the Central Coast. So this is perfect for us. Mr. Johnson described the demographic. That's us. We really want to be part of your community and contribute everything we have in terms of experience and now time. So that's all I have. Very anxious to come here. By the way, this hearing has renewed my faith in local government.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Schmella.
Marion Stahl.
Yes, my name is Marion Stawley. I've been in this area, lived in this area for 30 years, and I really enjoy it. And of course, I, like everybody else, am very much for this project, and I look forward to moving to Del Webb. And again, now that I'm retired, contribute to the community in many aspects with the schools and the churches, etc. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stawley.
And Janet Mayu.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of the board. My name's Janet Mayu, and I was born in Japan, so I really am not from around here. But about 10 years ago, my husband and I moved out to Bellotto Park part of the year. Some of you already know that we live in a fifth-wheel trailer. We sold our house in North Monterey County 10 years ago. We had a 10-year plan, and after 10 years of full-time travel, we are expecting to move to the Del Webb development. My husband, Leon, works in the entry office at the fair, and then In the spring, he works in the entry office at the Rodeo. So if you've been out to Bellotto Park, you've probably seen Leon. And if you've been to Tres Pinos School, I've been volunteering there for about that long. And I recall Michael Grove's name from many years ago when I was in the Pajaro Valley Unified School District Board, because we came over to Hollister to see one of your schools so that we could build one of our own schools, or actually several of them, in Watsonville with that same mission style. So I urge you to approve the development. Thank you very much.
Ms. Mayhew, thank you.
No other cards, Madam Chair.
Okay, I will open it up to anybody else. We're still under the public hearing, so if anybody else wants to come up and address the board, you're welcome to at this time.
Board of Supervisors, I'm a local resident, Graham Mackey. I think this is a very good project for our community. I think that there is a lot of us that might retire somewhere else if we don't have something like this. So let's keep our local people here and bring some wealthy people back in and make this a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham.
Graham's going to be a grandpa soon, so he needs to stay here. Good afternoon, Supervisors. Christina Chavez White, speaking again on behalf of being a resident, a mom, and a small business owner. I'm asking you, as everyone else this afternoon, to please support the staff recommendation and consider some of the benefits referred earlier this afternoon, as well as a few others, including the ability of families and friends of residents to use the improved and new facilities to host events and access programs, as San Juan Oaks already attracts organizations from outside our area, including Gilroy and Monterey County. Investments in the elementary schools, Gavilan College, and I'm hoping also CSUMB, with little or no negative impact to the schools themselves, making possible opportunities to grow, continue education, healthcare, physical therapy, hospitality, landscape architecture, maintenance, and culinary arts programs. Adults housing provides opportunities to nonprofits for growing ranks of volunteers and potential donors, retired and soon to be retired active adults. As our economy keeps changing, we keep working until we get older. May seek also to provide consulting services for entrepreneurs and small businesses, as well as form new businesses, and additionally attracted their children and relatives to our community to do the same. We have existing business parks that would be perfect fit for such. Active spenders in our community to invest locally in our retailers, restaurants, arts, and cultural events. Their investment will support and encourage more service and entertainment businesses here, which we need, especially for our youth. The ability of active adult residents to continue to reside here with an exceptional quality of life, close to their homes, providing the love and support for our active working families and their children. I'm familiar with the examples referred earlier today as my in-laws moved from Hollister to the Villages in San Jose. The resort location opportunity involves a very big attraction to hospitality investment in our county, as well as leveraging the investment and investments recently that you've made in tourism marketing with the Chamber, as well as the City of Hollister in the recent past. In regard to the timing of the hotel, which has been a little bit of past discussion, I think we need to look at how the recently renovated San Juan Inn continues performing and how our new Marriott Fairfield fare before putting any more pressure on our developer to continue investing. And last but no means least, the Del Webb San Juan Oaks proposal raises the bar for off-site investment in our taxes and fees. Nearly $30 million will invest in the county long into the future, which will help us all. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Christina. Anyone else from the public? There being none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for any questions they may have of the consultants, the developer, Supervisor Botello, and then Supervisor De La Cruz.
No, I don't have any questions. I just want to thank Mr. Johnston and Scott Fuller. I remember 3 years ago sitting at San Juan Oaks having a meeting, see if I would be interested in entertaining a development out there, a Del Webb. And I think I told you I have the red carpet in my back of my pickup. Where do I need to roll it out? And I certainly am excited about the potential of this to our, not only to the development and the success of it, the new residences that are being District 2. I'm excited about that. Good voters, I'm sure. But the impact that it will have on the city of Hollister and San Juan Bautista is to just be phenomenal. And my father was a resident in Elk Grove at Adele Webb, and it's a fantastic community. People are involved. There are leaders in the community, and that's what we need more of. And so it addresses a lot of amenities that we wish we could have in other developments, but we won't have that elsewhere. But this is great, and I'm going to support this today.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Patel. The Supervisor De La Cruz.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Speaking of District 2 voters, actually, I got a question before I comment on that. Byron, when is the first build-out is supposed to start, if we do approve it today?
Well, it's really on the applicant, but we have scheduled the map upcoming at the next Planning Commission meeting, and I believe they are looking to start construction in the next year.
The next year, so you figure turnkey about August, September, somewhere around there? Last quarter. Okay, and the reason why I asked that question is kind of relating to Supervisor Patel's response in terms of voters too. I actually had a couple of my constituents come today supporting the project, which means they'll probably move away from my project, Denise and Mike, and be out there. And I have issues with that.
All good voters.
I do have issues with that, but knowing that turnkey might be the last quarter of the year, I'm okay because I'll be right after the election. I'm good. But seriously, I really want to say. Thank you. Thank you to Scott Fuller. I remember running for office the first time in 2004. Scott and I had a series of meetings about what is it, Scott, 300 plus housing project at first. And I said, wow, next to San Juan Oaks, that's wonderful. That's great. I think it's a wonderful idea. And be and behold, today we're talking about an 1,100 project. And with community support, I got to say 99.99% community support. That is wonderful. That's actually unheard that actually we have the community supports this type of project. Because trust me, we have a lot of residents who will come to our board meetings when it comes to development projects that are 100 or more. And this one's 1,100, and we get the entire community behind us. That's pretty impressive. I really want to thank our staff, and especially Ray and Joe Paul, for negotiating the best deal available for San Benito County. I can't wait to see that $5.9 million back to the community. To me, that's very important. And I can't wait to see those jobs being created. I can't wait to see when you come bring a report back and you say, look, we hire high school kids that actually have a paycheck on Friday. That's wonderful. And I really want to thank Mr. Johnson for bringing forward and taking a risk on this opportunity for our community, and for all the members out there, and thank you, Ken Chumali, for moving forward on this project, and all. Thank you, folks, and I think I'm ready to support this project too. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Supervisor Rivas, and then Supervisor Munzer.
Yeah, I said my piece already. Just thank you for everybody, and this had my support a long time ago. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Supervisor Munzer?
I've asked the elections office many a time where District 4 boundary is there by San Juan Oaks. I think maybe District 4 may end up with some of these good voters also. But anyway, John, we talked when you first came to town, and I told you, don't rush your project, sell it to the voters. It didn't quite pan out real well then. When you came back to town, I said, do it quickly. And in government time, you have done this quickly. You have done this well. I won't say every single phone call I've gotten has been to support your project. Most of them have been, and usually when I don't get a support, it's because of the concern about traffic coming out onto Union Road, and that has been addressed in that the 156 will be built out. Union Road up to San Juan Oaks Drive will be expanded by Caltrans. You'll be putting the light in, and then your studies show that your residents will not be coming out at the peak time of traffic. So you definitely have a very good support, project here. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Supervisor Munzer. I want to thank everybody for being here today and for us giving us the opportunity to hear everything that you have to say. I want to thank the developer for having a vision that fits with our general plan and that fits the needs of the community. I especially want to thank staff. I think all of you are sitting here that were part of the negotiation. You represented us very well, and you got something for the community. It certainly is a winning operation that I think all of us are going to enjoy. And since just this week I've decided to retire from in not running for re-election, you know where I'm going to live. So I'm there. So anyway, thank you so much. We appreciate everything that you've done. And again, thank you to the staff. And I'll now entertain a motion.
With all due respect, Madam Chair, I recommend that you make the motion.
Okay. I will make the motion. I will start with the first one. Initially, I said that we would take these individually. I think that is the proper way to do it. So I will start with the first one. And we've held our public hearing. We've reviewed the administrative record and Planning Commission's recommendation. And now I believe the first one is to adopt resolution number 2015-82. And that is to certify the subsequent environmental impact report that evaluates the impacts of development under the Del Webb at San Juan Oaks project, prepared pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act and the CEQA guidelines and the county's local CEQA implementing procedure, adopt findings required by CEQA, adopt mitigation measures to reduce any significant environmental impacts where feasible, as recommended in the SCIR, adopt a mitigation monitoring and reporting plan, and adopt a statement of overriding considerations. That's my motion.
Second, Madam Chair.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next one, I will entertain a motion for number 5, and that's in page 144.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2015-83, adopting a water supply assessment included in the Appendix J to the SEIR.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next item.
Madam Chair, I'll adopt resolution number 2015-84 to amend the San Benito County General Plan text and map to create a San Juan Oaks specific plan, general plan designation, and apply it to the project site. Rangeland and rural designations under the county newly adopted 2035 general plan, which incorporates the regulation and policies described in the Del Webb at San Juan Oaks Pacific Plan based on the findings contained in the board resolution as recommended by the Planning Commission in the Planning Commission resolution number 2015-05.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The next resolution.
Adopt resolution 2015-85 approving and adopting Del Webb San Juan Oaks specific plan, which will function as a comprehensive planning instrument and will serve as a zoning for the project, which includes the development standards and other requirements for specific land use categories, including San Juan Oaks single-family residence, amenity center, the resort hotel, neighborhood commercial, community parks, neighborhood parks, open space common area, golf course, clubhouse, and agricultural preserve with and permanent wildlife habitat based on the findings contained in the board resolution and recommended by the Planning Commission in the Planning Commission Resolution 2015-05.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next motion.
adopt ordinance number 2015
86.
941. Simply ordinance 941.
approving and adopting a zone change and zoning tax amendment to change the existing zoning map from rural transitional plan unit development overlay, commercial thoroughfare, agricultural productive, and agricultural rangeland to the San Juan Oaks specific plan, creating a zone designation, San Juan Oaks specific plan, and apply it to the project site, which will then serve as a zoning for the project site and would implement the land use regulations and policies under the San Juan Oaks specific plan and adopt conforming amendments to the San Benito County Code to ensure consistency between the county code and the project based on the findings and conditions of the approval reflected in the board resolution and as recommended by the Planning Commission in Planning Resolution number 2015-05.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
gives me great honor to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2015-87.
No.
I'm sorry, I apologize. 949?
Ordinance 942.
As noted by staff, approving a development agreement which provides, among other things, for the owners, as that term is defined herein, to provide public benefits to the county beyond those that could otherwise be imposed on the project in mitigation of the project's impact and or other conditions of approval in consideration of certainty regarding laws applicable to development under the Del Webb at San Juan Oaks project.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay.
Madam
that
Chair?
concludes. Yes, sir.
A motion to adjourn in honor of our veterans.
Okay, we will do that. There's a
Second.
motion and a second, and now our meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.